Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to look at how to deploy our app. So once we get a release of our app or are happy with it and either want to show it to some people to look at or make it available to customers or whatever, we want to move from whatever machine we're developing on to how we're deploying this app. So where is it going to be in production, as it's called. So look at what some of the options there, not all of them. I'll talk a little bit about DevOps and how that has changed over the years. And then I'll look at a very specific way of doing things using Google Cloud. So you're free to use whatever version or whatever system you want, but I'm showing the one with Google Cloud. So I'll show you how to get started with Google Cloud, how to create a virtual machine, how to SSH into that machine. All these are fairly straight. Every step really is fairly straightforward, but it's nice just to have someone show you how to kind of step through it. So it's not like rocket science or anything. It's a fairly straightforward approach. How to install the software we'll need, how to clone a repository, and ways of running our app. All right, so let's get started with looking at options. Let me bring up my browser here. So the most popular one probably is Amazon Web Services. And the thing I should point out with a lot of these is they're all roughly the same cost. I don't know if one's super more expensive than another. And they all offer some free version, some free trial. And that's true with Amazon, that's true with Google, through GitHub, Development Pack, or whatever it's called. You can get free time on DigitalOcean. So these are all initially free for you. And when you are paying, it's a minimal cost for a basic machine. You can get some machines for $5 a month, say. So, and they almost all offer that type of low budget system and going up from there. So Amazon Web Services is probably the most popular. So if you're interested in getting a job that involves working with servers, knowing Amazon Web Services is certainly not a bad thing. Let me bring up my console home here. Oops, that's not the one to bring up. Oh, sorry for my dogs barking. And here you can see all my instances are currently stopped. But if I wanted to start, then that's relatively straightforward. I can just say state. Whoops, I kind of zoomed off my thing here. Just give me a second. You can say start. So and the thing is, there's a kind of a ramp up getting started with Amazon Web Services. It's a little trickier than, say, Google Cloud. But once it is up and running, once you kind of have gone through all the hoops of making the initial virtual machine, after that it's relatively straightforward. So that's fine. Another option is DigitalOcean. You can see when I scroll down here, pricing is pretty similar to everything else. One nice thing about DigitalOcean, I guess, is that there's no little hidden cost. So with Amazon, once you get bandwidth problems or more bandwidth or have more storage, you're paying extra fees. Here they just cap you. So there's, if you pay $10 a month, which I think's the one I am using, you get what you pay for and there's no hidden costs. And it's relatively easy to get started. If I was to come up with a disadvantage, it's probably less interesting on a resume to see that you have experience with DigitalOcean than either Amazon or Google. So that's kind of a slight disadvantage, but not much of one. So let me log in here. Okay, that was not expected. Hold on one sec. Sorry. All right. And here I have one instance. I guess it's the 1 gigabyte 1 gig memory, 30 gig disk. And here I think I'm running something like 4 different websites. I have Zaharsky.org here, guidetodataMining.com, rockettools.com, and a Zen site of mine. So at least 4 websites on this very tiny instance. And it requires hardly any work. It's kind of one nice thing and why I use it. Some other things are more Well, a lot of them don't require a lot of work, but this one's just so simple. You set it up and you're good to go. So even on this low priced tier, I can run 4 or 5 websites. Not that any of these get tons and tons of traffic, but that's one option. This is DigitalOcean. Another, which I did use, it's pretty similar to DigitalOcean. It's Linode, and the pricing, if I scroll down here and try to find pricing, that's not the way to do it. Pricing. And you see it's a fairly similar pricing range to DigitalOcean. If you, for a while I used this service just to, when I wanted to mess around with various things and I needed a more powerful machine, I just got a real server. All these other cases, when you get an EC2 instance or a DigitalOcean, it's running a virtual machine on a physical system that's running virtual machines for lots of people. With this one, you get a dedicated server, so you can do certainly much more work. You can get 32 gigs or something of memory, and it's a fairly good system. And here we go, I guess is what you get. 4 cores, 8 threads, 120 gig SSD. So it's looking pretty good at $42 a month. Now, instead of this, I bought a server and have it what's called colo. Colo, you pay someone to, you physically mail your server there, and they put it in their rack. So they keep they do the electricity, they keep everything cool. You don't need to have it personally, but it's your physical computer that's being stored somewhere else, co-location. All right, so that's kind of the range of things. The last one is Google Cloud, which I'm going to talk about shortly, and that's the one we're going to use. So that's I'll yak about it in a little bit later. The second thing I wanted to mention, and let me bring up my mentioning list, is this idea of DevOps, development operations. And it used to be not that many years ago, that the flow of how software was developed was way different. So you'd work on a project with a lot of developers for a year, and you would release a version, and that version would be good for a year. It's sort of like how operating systems are now, in a way, where you're working on something for a long time, and then you release a product, and then you work on it for another year, and you release the next version. And in that model, there would be developers, and they would get finished. And then there'd be some IT group that would distribute the software to everyone. If you're working as a developer in an insurance company, working for a year, and then the IT department would be responsible for deploying that application that you wrote. Now, in today's world, things are different. It's more fluid, where you might be developing something for a couple weeks, and then or maybe a couple months, and then deploying that app. And so it's more of a fluid division between developers and people responsible for putting stuff on, keeping servers running and stuff like that. And lots of times, developers are also sort of have a foot in the door of development operations. So DevOps simply means these are the people who are knowledgeable how to the scoop of how to do load balancing, meaning how to distribute load among when load gets too much that you need more than one computer, how to distribute that load among a cluster of computers. So things along those lines, how to bring things up, how to manage disk space, how to configure clusters of database servers. So all kind of those nuts and bolts stuff, DevOps. It's a real interesting area. All right, so we have to know a little bit about how to do this as developers, where before we were just concerned with developing code, and we could care less of how people actually implemented it or deployed it. Okay, so in the next 3 videos, we're going to be covering the rest of these topics, getting started on Google Cloud, all the way to how to get a production server running. See you in that next video. Bye.